Is Marvel just cashing in right now? Let's get into it and talk about the hottest comic books in the world.
But before we get into the Dazzler, you got to get through the Juggernaut. We're talking number 10 on the list. It's X-Men, issue number 12, the first appearance of Kane Marco.
This is one of those books that I get super excited to see rank on the Hot 10. Doesn't come up often. However, I'm always waiting to see, is there another 9/6 sale that took place? Because they only happen once every couple of years. The last time it did, it sold for $41,900. That's because there's only 2 9/8s in existence. This book is tough as hell. I mean, we're talking double-digit X-Men Kirby goodness. And those 9/8s haven't seen the internet in over 14 years.
And it's been about 3 months since we talked about X-Men number 12, and since then there have been 69 more slabs added to the census. Nothing in super high grade, although there are 2 more .5s. But we got a couple year-high sales as well. Let's start with the 3.0, selling for $425. That's 7% above its 12-month average. The 4.0 is up 8%, and that's a year high. The 5.0 is up 9%, the 5.5 is up 6%, and then the 7.0 clocked in at $1,900, 35% above average, and is a year-high sale.
We know there's a lot of cameos coming in Deadpool Wolverine, and actor Vinnie Jones, who portrayed Juggernaut way back in the Fox X-Men Last Stand days, had this to say about why he is not reprising the role. Could he be lying?
We couldn't strike the deal for Deadpool, but I mean, Deadpool's my favourite movie of time, more or less, but I really wanted to do it, but they didn't have the budget to put me in the suit.
The fact that they asked him to be in the movie makes me think that they're asking everybody from the Fox X-Men days, which is going to be more important later on in this list.
Juggernaut has earned his way onto the roster of the X-Men team officially post the Krakoa era, and we are now entering a new era from the Ashes where he will be on the team. This is going to spice some things up, and it's going to be a great opportunity to jump onto the mutant train if X-Men 97 and Deadpool Wolverine hasn't done it already for you.
The book drops on July 10th. I plan on reading the new relaunch of the X-Men. I'll probably do some reviews on the channel if you want to check it out.
Juggernaut's cool, but you got Jed McKay and Ryan Stegman on this title. Add it to your pull list. You won't be disappointed. Number 9 on the list is Iron Man number 1. This book is getting so affordable that we're officially just not seeing the highest of grades hit the market because people are clearly holding.
Yeah, and this book seems to pop up on the list every few weeks or so. We actually talked about it 3 weeks ago when it made number 4 on the Hot 10, and 28 more slabs have been added to the census since then. This week, we saw 1.8 sell for $300, 9% above average. The 3.5 is up 11%, which is a year-high sale. The 4.0 is up 2%. The 6.5 is up 3%. And the 9.0 just came in at $2,678 for an increase of 7%.
It's kind of crazy, but it feels more up in the air more than ever now that Robert Downey Jr. could find a pathway to being back in the Iron Man boots and leading the Avengers team. I mean, Kevin Feige has gone on record to say multiple times that he doesn't want to see it happen, but we know Robert Downey would be down for it, and the community clearly wants it to happen because every time we talk about this book, it seems like there's another rumor going around about how people have figured out a way to make this happen on the screen and have it make sense and appease the fans.
I mean, it's not too much of a stretch to think that we can see this happen in Deadpool and Wolverine. I mean, you got the TVA. They're going to be visiting multiple different timelines, potentially killing the Fox universe. Could they bring Robert Downey Jr. back as Iron Man in this film? I mean, he is the heart of the MCU. I think fans would like to see it.
Deadpool has a healing ability. He can easily be brought back to this monumental moment where Robert Downey Jr., Iron Man, saves the day, you know, does the snap. And could Deadpool prevent the death of Tony Stark, leading him to be able to reprise his role in the future and save the MCU? Actually, let us know what you think about that in the comment section below.
Killing the Fox universe and saving the MCU all in one movie. I'm there for it. Moving on to number 8 on the list, we've got more X-Men related goodness with Iron Fist 14, the first appearance of Sabretooth.
The 4.5 is up 3%. Same with the 6.5 and 7.5. The 8.5 is up 4%. The 9.2 outsold its 12-month average by 15% on its height, selling for $790, and 3 different 9.2s outperformed that 12-month average. The 9.4 sold for $900, up 5%. You can get a 9.8 for $3,800. I said it a little weird. I'm going to keep it going because this book has been selling above 4K all year long. The supply is relatively the same. We've only seen 40 new slabs added to the census in a month. However, There's only been one new 9.8. There's been one new 9.6. There's one new 9.4. And we cannot say that increase is similar to really any other hot book on the list. They all have been growing at an exponential rate by the week, if not by the day.
And besides the Deadpool Wolverine cameo potential with Sabretooth, issue 50 of Wolverine ends, which will end the Sabretooth War and that current run, launching a new reboot. And it seems like Marvel's pulling out all the stops for Wolverine issue 1.
Marvel's saying that this is going to be the proof that Wolverine is the best at what he does, that he's going to be going full berserker, that he's going to be on the brink of going full feral Wolverine. And that makes sense, doesn't it? I mean, X-Men 97 is essentially setting us up for that storyline in season 2. But I digress, because they're talking about major Wolverine lore being expanded in this issue and soliciting a new character right out the gate with issue number 1 to appease collectors that's in their solicitation. And you may think that's like, you know, them just trying to pump up their sales. And that is going to happen, of course. But look at this freaking lineup of variant cover artists. Holy hell.
We got Martin Coccolo on cover A, Clayton Crane did a variant, Felipe Massafara is one of my favorites. Then you got this John Romita Jr. cover.
I like how you didn't say anything about that one, Jem. I got to know what the community thinks about this Wolverine 1 homage, because it's kind of a Wolverine 1 homage. No shots, because look at this John Tyler Christopher negative space variant. And I haven't looked into this, but dude, isn't this a cover that already exists? I swear I've bought this before, but we'll have to look into that.
No, that one looks familiar. I think they might have used that for something else. Then we've got the Kari Andrews variant, Mike Zeck, and then Patrick Gleason doing a play on his Spider-Man 55 cover.
Patrick Gleason doing a webhead style variant, but with an adamantium head. I like what I see. It's glorious, almost as beautiful as the Peach Momoko variant. I want to know what your thoughts are about the John Romita Jr. cover, but also, are you picking up any of these variants? And if so, which one? Let us know in the comment section below. And do yourself a solid and download the best comic app in existence. It's called Key Collector Comics.
You got to check out the Marvels movie and TV category over on Key Collector if you want to see everything related to Deadpool and Wolverine and X-Men 97.
Utilize code Tom101 to unlock a free 2-week subscription of the app that costs like I think it's $2 a month right now to have Key Collector Comics, but 98% of the app is completely free. If you're looking for key books, to learn about funny books, to get access to all the categories that Jem just said, you don't have to be a paid subscriber. But if you are a paid subscriber, it's a couple bucks, and that's going to pay itself in dividends with all the books that you're going to learn about and keep up with, especially if you're hunting for comic books. It takes one find to pay for Key Collector for the whole year.
Moving on to number 7, the X-Men hype has not stopped. We have Uncanny X-Men issue 221, the first appearance of Mr. Sinister.
We're not going to even report on all the sales happening, and it's going to be very impactful because essentially the X-Men 97 spec is all but dead, really. I mean, the reason why this book was spiking at first was because Mr. Sinister was believed to be the main villain, the main antagonist in this show, and he is now basically a side villain. I mean, we got Bastion, we got Onslaught probably coming, but why all the sales this week? The 9.0's up 9%, 9.27%, 3.94's outsold the 12-month average, up 20%, selling for $100 at the height. The newsstand 9.4 is selling for $250, and that's a year high, and that's up 125%.
The 9.6 came in at $130. That's 12% above average. 3 copies outperformed that average as well. The newsstand version sold for $190. That's 5% up. And then we have a CGC 9.8 selling for $355, 29% above average, and 3 copies outperformed as well.
This book has seen a rather large increase in census count, but keep in mind, the last episode of X-Men 97 is this week. These books that were hitting the census are likely not even going to arrive at their owners' homes in time for the final season episode. We saw 44 copies added to the census in 14 days, 15 of which were at a 9.8. This book has been selling under $300 all year long, and the last sale recorded on GPA was for $355. There's more going on with this book than the animation show that's largely spiking most X-Men comics.
Javier Bardem was rumored to play Mr. Sinister in a live-action upcoming MCU film. Originally, people were thinking it was Galactus, but Galactus was just cast last week.
That's right. So officially, the spec has moved, and people are sticking with the book, believing Mr. Sinister is still on slate. And Javier Bardem would be an excellent choice to portray the role. What do you think about that in the comment section below? How are the prices feeling with this book, because I feel like $300 was a good grab, regardless of if it was hitting $250 just months ago.
And what's funny is that the spec from Mr. Sinister left X-Men 97, and now it's more hopeful for the MCU, but I think the opposite is what's happening with number 6 on the list. We've got New Mutants 87, the first appearance of Cable.
I like what Key Collector said about Cable and his incorporation in the animation. It was so successful that thinking of spin-off series, which almost seems inevitable, would be so easy for this character. X-Factor, X-Force, New Mutants. He jumps through time, so you can go to any era. Like, it just makes sense.
Yeah, just last week we reported on Josh Brolin not reprising his role as Cable for the upcoming Deadpool and Wolverine, but now there are rumors of reshoots and Josh Brolin teasing that Ryan Reynolds called him.
You know, Ryan hit me up the other day and he said, "Congratulations on Dune." And I said, "Thanks for the work." And I'm not sure what I meant by that.
That's right. Like, why would Ryan Reynolds call him? Why would he say that? And we know that they are for sure doing reshoots to incorporate more cameos in this film. And let's not forget, like, we've seen brief cameos. I mean, I'm thinking of like Childish Gambino in the Spider-Verse movie. That was filmed months prior to the release, and it took him a day to film it. That can happen with any of these characters that are being rumored, including Josh Brolin.
But I'm with Key Collector on this one. I think there's so much more potential for Cable in the animated series than just getting some kind of brief cameo in this movie. The CGC 7.5 sold for $100. That's a year-high sale, and it's 19% above its 12-month average. The 9.0 also had a year-high sale coming in at $160. That's 42% up, and 3 copies outperformed. The 9.2 is up 34%, another year-high sale, and 4 copies of the 9.2 did better than it did all year.
The 9.4 is up 42% at its height this week, selling for $210. Shout out Madam Web. And 4 different copies outsold that 12-month. The 9.6 sold for $225. That's up 11%. The newsstand 9.6 sold for $330. That's a year high, and that's up 21%. And then the 9.8 had a high sale of $513. This book has barely cracked $500 this year for an increase of 10%, and 4 different copies outsold that 12-month average. Hot books become hot because of how much they're trending above average, but also the sheer quantity of sales. It's what's ranking them.
And that's what pushed this book to make it to number 6 on the list. Moving on to number 5, we've got Ghost Rider issue 1. This is the first solo title Ghost Rider series.
There are so many sales that we can report on for this first solo Ghost Rider comic book this week. It feels like something must be happening. And the rumors that we're seeing are largely because of Doctor Strange 3, which makes sense. Where else could they introduce Johnny Blaze in the greater MCU? I don't want it to happen on Disney+. This is a major character. It's going to push everybody to go to the movies. And is there a better movie that he could premiere in? I mean, Doctor Strange, very much focused on the occult and magic. I mean, it seems like it would be a perfect fit for the supernatural.
I'm a big fan of Nick Cage's Ghost Rider, but I don't know if we're going to see him play this character. He has just officially been cast as Spider-Man Noir.
Peep Key Collector for all the sales. There's over 6 of them. I'm going to hit you with the top highlights. The 7.5 sold for $600, up 12%. The 8.0's up 3%. And the 9.2 just sold for $12.55. That's an increase of 7%. However, the 9.0 has hit $2,000 heights, so it's down by nearly half.
And this is another one of those books that seems to pop up on the list a few times a year. The last time we spoke about it was about a month ago, and since then, 41 more slabs have been added to the census. We got a new 9.4 minus a 9.6. Maybe somebody cracked it, pressed it, and resubmitted it because we have one new 9.8.
Now there's only 54 9.8s on the census, and this next sale is going to prove why you're not seeing a whole lot of 9.8s hit the market, because this book at its height hit $26,400 in 2022. Fast forward 2 years, that 9.8 sold, and we now see a sale for $10,700. It's down by over 70%.
The 9.8 may be down, but this book is moving. A 217% increase in copies sold this week over last.
And that brings us to number 4. This is it. This is what the thumbnail's all about. Do we have confirmation about Dazzler? Taylor Swift, the best evidence, in my opinion, has officially been circulating, and we're going to get into it. But not before I tell you to join the mystery mail call so I can send you comics every single month. Go to ComicTom101.com, link in the description. Every single person gets a Deadpool Wolverine World War III Ivan Tao variant. We're celebrating Deadpool, and we're hitting you with this glorious cover. And it's beautiful. They're already in, and you can guarantee yours by joining the community and supporting the show.
You know, I wasn't on board with the whole Taylor Swift as Dazzler thing. I thought it was a reach, but starting to connect these dots and what we're seeing now this week really makes me feel like she's going to play Dazzler in this movie.
Deadpool comes out at the end of July, just in time for San Diego Comic-Con. September of this year, so just a convenient couple months after, Marvel has announced that Dazzler #1 will debut, and they're soliciting it as a world tour. Very similar in the style of what you would see a, I don't know, celebrity musician do. And Dazzler is a performer. This may not mean anything, but I want to know what the community thinks in the comment section below. Is Marvel just trying to capitalize on the Dazzler hype that is unwarranted? Or are they positioning this title to premiere in time for you to watch the movie, get excited about Taylor Swift Dazzler, and then to hit up your LCS to put your order in time for a September release?
Yes, like, was this their plan all along, or are they just capitalizing off of all the hype that we as collectors created? I don't know, Sideshow's got this Dazzler statue coming out. Why else would we make a Dazzler comic book series at this time? She's got to be in this movie.
Oh my gosh, we've gone full circle, Jim. What's happening? And the comic collectors and the speculators are absolutely putting money down. We have more than one 9.8 to report on. We're skipping half of the sales, and we're still reporting on like 7 different sales. Go peep Key Collector. Let's jump in with a 9.2 selling for $320, up 15%. The 9.4 Newsy sold for $500. That's up 44%. The 9.6 sold for $550. That's up 17%. The 9.8, one of two, Direct sold for $1,900. That's up 21%. And a newsstand 9.8 basically sold for the same amount, $1,850, a year high 12% increase.
Now, that newsstand coming in lower than the direct market edition, I wonder if it's one of those situations where it just can't keep up, somebody overpaying for the direct market, or is this one of those books during an era where newsstands were more prevalent?
This is the dawn of LCSs in 1980, so the newsstands were very prevalent. You don't typically see that much of a difference in price during this time frame. But we also have a record-breaking sale. A newsstand 8.5, last sold in October for $200, just broke a record, selling for $300, an increase of 50% this past week. Marvel just dropped a facsimile, however, recently. You know, I want to know what you think about this in the comment section below, because at this point, I'm going to be a little peeved if we don't see Taylor Swift Dazzler, and I think a lot of people throwing money down are going to as well.
Dazzler first appears in Uncanny X-Men 130, and just a few short issues later, we get a monumental story. In just 2 issues, we get Days of Future Past. Number 3 on the list is Uncanny X-Men 141.
So this one kind of had me take a step back when reviewing this list, Jem. I mean, there's no real reason to see this book here besides maybe affordability. It is beloved. But I compare it to, like, Spider-Man. If someone's looking to just collect Spider-Man and they want to get a ASM 298, 299, ASM 300 even, like, these are all major keys, but they're not like mega keys. I get it. There's no bad time to collect these books outside of, like, maybe there being a price hike because of the time of year. But you see this book sell no matter what, despite anything happening in the mainstream. And I think you actually kind of proved my point this past week, because I watched you do a review of the omnibus, and I got to ask, what encouraged that to happen?
Yeah, it was so crazy to see this book hit the list because I just recently did a top 10 X-Men omnibus video, and when I got to Uncanny X-Men Volume 2, I mentioned that it had the Dark Phoenix saga, and it had Days of Future Past, and I love this story. It was beautifully recreated in the original X-Men animated series, so it just kind of shows you that it's just a timeless story. There's no real reason for it to be here, just happens to be one of the great X-Men stories.
We chatted about this book a month ago. Since then, 38 slabs have been added to the census, 5 of which were graded at a 9.8, which heights are down royally. This book hit heights of over $2,600. Sales are clocking in at under $800. It's been quite a while since this book has been as affordable. And newsstand 8.0 this week sold for $120. That's up 2%. The 8.5 had its year-high sales selling for $185. And the 9.0 sold for $175. It didn't even keep up. It's up 7%. And at that grade and price, I don't think the buyer really cares.
The 9.4 sold for $100 more, and that's an increase of 35% over its 12-month average. The 9.6 is up 19%, and then we have 2 record breakers, both newsstands. The 5.5 last sold for $109 last year, selling now for 120 puts it up 10%. And then the newsstand 9.6, which sold for 105 in 2022, is now up 19%, clocking in at 125.
Every week we're doing giveaways on the show officially, and you can join by joining our SMS, our text messaging contact list. Go to ComicTom101.store. A banner will just load up, or you can click the 10% off button. Put your phone number in, and that way we have a way to contact you, and you know it's us contacting you, so that if you win, we can send you the giveaway. We're doing them every single week, so all you have to do is sign up one time, and you're in for all of our giveaways going forward.
Yeah, if you're like one of those people who have 3,000 unread emails sitting there on their phone, you want to get that text so you're made aware of all the new drops and discount codes.
And number 2 on the list is New Mutants 98, the first appearance of Deadpool in comic books, proving that what happens on the screen tends to affect, largely more than anything else, the comic collecting marketplace. And this is the only Marvel movie coming out this year, and the sales are definitely showing that people are looking to spec on something.
Yeah, with so many of these books influenced by what may happen in Deadpool vs. Wolverine, there's no question that his first appearance would make it. The 9.0 is up 2%. The 9.2 is up 14%. 2 copies outselling that 12-month average. The 9.4 is up 6%. The highest of the 3 copies that outperformed, coming in at $450. The 9.6 sold for $556. That's an increase of just 4%, but 5 copies outperformed the average.
So many sales, and we're only covering half of them. Peep Key Collector for the rest. The newsstand 9.6 is up 9%. The 9.8 is up 7%. Someone spent $1,500 again on this book at a 9.8, and the newsstand 9.8 just clocked in a sale at $3,200. That's an increase of 22%, and that is the year high, upwards of 2 months before the movie debuts. The census count has been exploding on this book. I think members who are spending $1,500 to $1,800 on this book, when the average 9.8 has been going for around the $1,200 to $1,300 all year long, you can get it for cheaper on auction if you're patient. I think they're going to be disappointed if you spend that kind of money on this book, because the census is blowing up, and I expect the supply to outdo the demand once Deadpool Wolverine comes out.
No, let's keep it real. This has got to be the worst time to buy this book. Sure, it may be hot for a little while after the movie comes out if it does well, which it looks like it's gonna, but I'm sure it's gonna cool down after that. I mean, look at this census count. 41 more slabs since just last week. That includes 15 new 9.6s and 4 more 9.8s.
Last week, someone paid over $1,500 for this book in a 9.8. This week, someone paid over $1,500 for the book in a 9.8. The last GPA sale was $1,100. Save your money and be patient. And let's talk about the #1 hottest book in the world. And hit the like and subscribe button if you're excited to find out that it's not Wolverine #1.
It's actually a book that hasn't made the list in about a month. It's close to Wolverine #1, Giant Size X-Men #1, the first appearance of the new X-Men team.
Peep my recent C2E2 vlog. I showcase a bunch of amazing books. Got to hold a Batman 1, got to hold an Action Comics #1, and I got to see the Giant Size X-Men 9.9. Yeah, X-Men hype is real. This book is down. It's one of the best times to grab it, probably. I mean, we'll report on some of the changes in price over the last couple years. However, we know that the 9.9 exists and it's headed to market. And I suspect that members of the community and speculators and X-Men collectors are trying to scoop up Giant Size before that 9.9 hits the market, because they suspect that it's going to blow records. Because it's never hit the market before, this is the first ever 9.9 sale coming.
And I don't know how I feel about that, because it's obvious that this book is not a true 9.9. Let us know in the comments down below. What do you think about that GSX 199 as we look at this past week's sales? The 3.5 up 18%. The 4.0 up 13%. The 4.5 sold for $1,604. That's 5% up, but it's also the year high sale.
The 7.5 sold for $3,450. That's up 17%. That's also a year high sale. Just like the 8.0 reporting a year high with $4,050 coming in at an 18% increase. The 8.5 is selling for $3,800, an increase of 2%. And the 9.4 just sold for essentially what it's been selling for, $6,900. Way too many sales on a very expensive book at a very interesting time. Now, I've seen this 9.9 in person, and there wasn't any like major red flags, but Jem, you just said it. You've seen this book, at least coverage of it on YouTube, and you don't think that it's a true 9.9. I'm not really sure. I'm kind of on the fence about it, but there's a lot of my homies who make YouTube channels who have been questioning it. I want to kick it to the community. What do you think about this 9.9? Is it too suspiciously soon since CGC opened up the doors for 9.9 pre-screens for this book to just emerge out of nowhere? I got to know your thoughts, and as always,
geek responsibly and stay minty fresh.
Enough said.